Sorry, Cheryl, we can't hear the music. Is there any problem with the music? We cannot hear the audio.
Okay, Dr. Ju, I'll just try to look at that. Dr. Chu, just 1 minute, yeah?
Okay. Maybe because you unmute your audio. Cheryl?
Yes, Dr. Ju, I think it's something to do with the only apparently I can hear the video, but then the
Ah,
sound doesn't go.
okay.
So what I'm going to do
Oh,
is, because I don't want to take too much of time, what I'm going to do is, if you allow, it's not a long video. Maybe I just run and then they can see the words. And then maybe what I can do is I can then maybe explain a little bit, right? Because
okay.
unfortunately,
I suggest to unmute your mics. Maybe we can hear by the unmuting the microphone.
I tried, it didn't work, unfortunately.
Okay, it's okay then.
Yeah. We're sorry about that. Apparently,
Ah,
only I can hear it. So what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, I'm just going to let it play. Nevertheless, it's not a long video,
okay.
and then maybe when I go into the presentation, I can try to bring in a bit more details. If that's okay, I'm really sorry about the video. Yeah.
It's okay then. Okay.
All right. Okay, Dr. Ju. So that was the
Yeah.
corporate video. Only I could hear the music, so I'm really, really sorry about that. I hope you at least got a brief idea with the wordings that came out, the 5 different sentences and so on. But I will try my best to explain a little bit more as I go into my presentation, Dr. Ju.
Okay.
Uh, so the next agenda, I think we are pretty much on time again, despite to the glitch. I will go into the presentation now and try to bring in some discussions that we could further delve in, perhaps in today's online meeting. Yeah, Dr. Chu?
Okay, you may proceed.
Okay, Dr. Chu, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen. It's regarding our banner, right?
Yes, okay. So we will go with this then. So today, students and respected lecturers, the title of this presentation is going to be MIMA's role in ocean law and policy research, focusing on marine environmental and resources management. And as mentioned earlier, I will. So we're at 10:30 and we're going with the presentation. And pretty much I will try to explain to you a little bit more on what is MIMA specifically, what is our function, what is our role overall in the broad range, and then I will try to explain what is the recent, most specific research work that we're doing on environment and resources management in Malaysia, also some of our contributions in relation to that at the regional and international level. So pretty much you can see students, there's a map here showing Malaysia. And if you look very closely, there are different areas of water bodies that we always emphasize whenever we say Malaysia is actually a maritime nation. And why we say Malaysia is actually a maritime nation, look around us, we are surrounded by water bodies. You can see the Straits of Malacca on one side and then the South China Sea on the other side. And then if you look closely on the Sabah and Sarawak side, you can see Sulu Sea and the Celebes Sea. So we are surrounded by different water bodies, and that hence makes us a maritime nation in essence. Yeah. And notwithstanding that, also we usually say that our coastline is really long, and you can see that pretty much all the states are actually having a coastline. So it's 4,000 plus kilometer, and we benefit from all the coastal and marine activities due to this. And most of our population and the major cities are also pretty much located close to the shores, hence making marine and maritime issues and aspects really important for Malaysia. Yeah. So I just wanted to stress upon that point. And a little bit more, like I mentioned, this particular slide is to emphasize to you or try to elaborate a little bit more on what is MIMA essentially, because not many people actually knows MIMA. We're often very happy when universities approach us, the academics approach us, because most of the time we're pretty much working more closely with the government, related government agencies, and we engage with the academic side on specific research and data compilation and so on. So unfortunately, the video was supposed to explain this, but I will try to explain this a little bit more to you. So MIMA is actually the Maritime Institute of Malaysia, is a maritime policy think tank. We were established in 1993, and our function is to research on all maritime policy matters. So we are a government policy research institution. We are placed currently under the maritime section of the Ministry of Transport, Malaysia. For funding purposes, we are fully funded by the government. And although we are funded by the specific ministry, we work closely with many different related stakeholders, government agencies, and focal points on addressing maritime policy matters. And there are four, if you look at this, there are four different areas that MIMA focuses on. And the fifth one is a specific water body. I will say why the fifth one is there in a little bit. But to cover the four main areas, when we talk about maritime areas, we work on coastal and marine environment. That's where I come from. And then there is the division on marine law. They look at ocean law and policy, draft legislations, and so on. So very closely on legal matters. And then there's the Center on Security and Diplomacy. They look at issues such as piracy, terrorism, and other areas. Maritime economics at the moment looks a lot into ports and shipping aspects, the economics of maritime activities, and then in a couple of years ago, about 2008 or so, there was a lot of importance and activities and programs focusing on the Straits of Malacca. Hence, MIMA actually also established a specific center into looking into research matters focusing on the Straits. But nevertheless, since then, this center has also been covering other aspects as well, and slowly also trying to look into South China Sea and so on. So these are the four different centers and one specific division that looks into a water body. Just to emphasize that, and some of the pictures that you saw in the video did underline some of the specific areas or reports or activities that this different division focuses on. But nevertheless, I like to emphasize to you also, students, that UNCLOS, the United Nations Law of the Sea, is the backbone to all the work that we do. We make sure that it is in line with international law. We make sure that our national obligations, specific actions, programs are all in line with international commitments and so on. So hence, I am pretty sure that in your syllabus, you'll be also studying UNCLOS, but rest assured that even BIMA's work is very much based on the law of the sea. So pretty much geographically, although you see there's a center specifically on the Straits of Malacca, we nevertheless cover all Malaysia's sea areas. So that is given. Straits of Malacca is just given a priority due to its national, regional, and international significance. So I hope that has made it clear to you, because this was pretty much the essential of the MIMA corporate video that I wanted to show to you earlier. So this is a bit on MIMA. And if you need to know in more details, please feel free also in the meantime to look into our website. You just have to type MIMA Malaysia and then look at some of the elaboration and details for each of these divisions or these different centers within our website. Yeah. So pretty much I just like to also include here a slide that shows to you the different aspects that I've mentioned. So you can see that we're looking at marine resources, we're looking at non-traditional security issues, we are looking at conservation, we are looking at resources management, we are looking at ports, shipping, security matters, and so on. So just some photo to show you some of the areas that we cover in a broad range. So, and then this picture specifically, this diagram shows you, if you look at this one, it's pretty much emphasizes on the importance of the Straits of Malacca, where you can see there are a lot of information when we talk about Straits of Malacca, but this one is specifically to highlight to you, if you look at the graph on the side, the oil transportation that's going through our straits, how many million barrels per day, and you can see that we're pretty much one of the one of the main international straits for navigation in the world. If you look at the statistics in terms of shipping navigation through our straits, the latest data that I can quote to you is that in last year alone, we have more than 80,000 ships passing by the straits. And if you look into comparison of this figure, uh, it was maybe 10 years ago at about 60,000 plus, and then it comes to 70,000, and now it's already at 80,000 plus. And one of the MIMA research also shows that by 2024 or 25, there would be more than 100,000 ships passing through the Straits of Malacca. And hence, we think it's a very important area to work on in all aspects that MIMA focuses, including environment, security, economics, and legal aspects. Just to emphasize to you, because normally people ask us, why do you have a specific center focusing on one water body? So I think I hope that is clear. And now, just to move more closely on what the Center for Coastal and Marine Environment does, um, I think all of us are well aware that we have a very rich biodiversity. Malaysia is one of the richest biodiverse countries in the world, if not just in this region. And we have a wealth of ecosystems, habitats, and other marine resources. I'm not sure if you have followed the news. Yesterday, in fact, was the International Day for Mangroves Conservation, and hence, look at the importance we are gaining in terms of our ecosystems and so on. I remember in the past, it was used to be only the World Oceans Day, which is celebrated on the 8th of June. But now you have, Marine Day, you have a marine mangrove day, you have a coral reef celebration, and so on. So it's getting importance, it's getting more significance from time to time. Hence, making environment a very important area to focus on and to work on. And these ecosystems and these resources together, they provide for the economic and social needs. They have ecosystem services that benefit the population, the coastal communities. They provide coastal protection systems. They also generate revenue to tourism activities. They assist in providing livelihood for fishermen and so on. So you see the importance in that sense as well. The sustainable development of the coast, seas, and resources is therefore a major priority to the Malaysian government, and hence you see we have also signed numerous international and regional treaties, legislation, commitments. And if I can just provide you some example, you see that Malaysia is a very active member to the Convention on Biological Diversity. We have associated policies to support what we have committed to at the international level. We are now also actively looking into our Sustainable Development Goal number 14, if you know, it's life underwater. So there's so much going on that focuses onto the environment side of things, hence making it very, very important. So the Center for Coastal and Marine Environment at MIMA hence aspire to contribute to ecologically sustainable ocean management. But what we do is we do policy research. We do not do scientific research, unfortunately. We focus only on policy research to provide for timely and appropriate inputs into policy making and ocean coastal zone management, as well as provide for marine related educational activities. And I will explain a little bit more in terms of what I meant by educational activities here. We engage students, like this platform today, I hope is also one small initiative to raise awareness on what we're doing. But on the side, we also have other opportunities where we try to participate in international celebrations with the public, with the students, with the universities, to make sure that people are aware of the importance of marine and coastal environment in Malaysia and why we need to play an active role in it. At the same time, we also offer opportunities. I think I should highlight this because there are students in this platform. We offer opportunities for students to join us in terms of industrial training programs and so on. So there are a lot of activities or programs that we do in addition to the policy research and inputs to the government. Yeah. The center has undertaken research on various areas to promote these areas that I have mentioned to you, and I will show you some of these areas in a while. But at the same time, also we also publish our research findings. So it's not just policy input papers; it's of course our priority area. We provide a lot of input papers to the government and related agencies. But at the same time, we also sometimes try to publish our research findings at national, international conferences, forums, and so on. We organize conferences, seminars, workshops, stakeholder meetings, and so on. If you could see in some of the pictures that came up in the video just now, it shows conferences and so on. That's how we engage our stakeholders. So if some of you at this point is wondering, where do we get, if we need data and information to support our policy making, where do we get that from? So I can tell you that we work very closely with the government agencies. Let's say we are working on a pollution topic, we get information from the Department of Environment to support our policy inputs and so on. And sometimes we also work very closely on specific projects with relevant universities as well. So that's where we look at policy making based on data. Policy and science coming together in that essence. I briefly mentioned to you that one of our thematic areas for the Center for Environment at MIMA is also to celebrate the Oceans Day, and we have been doing it since 2010. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation this year, I think we had to go a little bit low in 2020, but we hope with the improvement of the situation, we'll be able to once again play a very active role in related type of awareness building at the national level. So some of the areas that I mentioned where the Environment Division works very closely, we don't do it every year on every topic, but we look at the requirement for the pressing need for certain topics to be addressed in certain years. But on the broad sense, the major areas that we try to focus on in our research and policy making is on sustainable development of marine resources, and that includes fisheries, that includes aquaculture, and so on. We look very closely into coastal zone management in Malaysia. We look at areas like the importance of integrated management with the need to bring in all related agencies and stakeholders to look into integrated management and not just sector-based management, not just one area, but we try to look at the broader range of areas when we look at coastal zone management. We work a lot the last few years on marine pollution. And if you look at marine pollution here, it's very broadly mentioned, but it can be land-based pollution, it can be sea-based pollution. So what we're doing at the moment is one of the hot topics, if you follow the media and so on, is marine litter. We're looking very closely into marine litter issue. At the same time, we are working very closely with the Marine Department, Jabatan Laut, into pollution that comes from shipping activities. So that is another area that we work very closely on. And I think this is one area that is cross-boundary where not just the environment is affected, but we need to work very closely with the legal people to address the convention, the legal requirement, and so on. So that's on marine pollution. And then we also focus on to the conservation of coastal and marine biological diversity. So a couple of years ago, what the Environment Division did was to look more into national coastal and marine biological diversity. But the last 2 or 3 years, we are also very closely following to the ABNJ. I hope you know the terminology. ABNJ is areas beyond national jurisdiction. This is very much an area that's still being heavily discussed at the international forum, and we're looking at how Malaysia can play an active role and what should be some of the policies that we should be looking at when we discuss biological diversity, not just in our own territory, but also in areas beyond national jurisdictions. So I just wanted to emphasize that. Ecosystems protection, we cannot run away from it. And 3 main ecosystems that we look into is coral reefs, seagrass, and mangroves. So these are the 3 areas that we try to focus on in terms of management aspects and policy aspects. We try to identify gaps issues, challenges, and try to bring to the relevant agencies or stakeholders' attention as to what would be the requirement to further enhance and better our management processes. Just to take this opportunity to highlight to you, if you try to look at MIMA Facebook later, students, you can see that there was an article yesterday that we emphasized gaps or requirements on mangroves in conjunction with the International Mangrove Day celebration yesterday, yeah, 26th of July. So please feel free to look at our website as well as our Facebook to get a bit more information as to what we do when we look at ecosystems, for instance, in this situation. We also work on adaptation to climate change, and this is a very big area, and I think a lot of universities are also looking into this. But what MIMA tried to do is to look at issues like the National Communications Report that Malaysia has to submit to UNFCCC. Uh, we try to provide information to the government agency on marine and coastal areas, policy requirements, policy gaps, and so on. This is an ongoing effort that MIMA try to engage with the relevant government agencies. I have mentioned to you, MIMA is under the Ministry of Transport Maritime section, so we cannot run away from green shipping, and port operations is a very important area because we work directly with our focal ministry on these aspects. If you have further questions on this, I will be happy to share with you later. But this, I think, is a very heavy area that MIMA works on. Of course, we are trying slowly to come into also renewable energy, green technology in the maritime sector, and so on. But this area is fairly new, and we are slowly trying to better understand what are some of the needs if we can try to fulfill policy requirements and so on. But nevertheless, I think this is a very new area still for MIMA, and we hope to play a more active role in the years to come on this aspect. So you can see that these are some of the major areas that the Environment Division try to focus on. And at the same time, the other three divisions that I mentioned to you, the Economic Division would have their own area of work, the Legal Division will have their own area of work, and the Security Division as well will have their own area of work in this sense. And if you like to look, in the interest of time, if you like to understand what are their areas, again, please feel free to look into our website. It actually details out each of these sections very specifically. Yeah. Now, I wanted to take this opportunity to try to bring to you some of the recent project highlights. I think what we have done is we have uploaded some of the abstracts from the findings of the research that we have been doing the last few years. And this one is at least the more recent one, just to give you an idea on, the type of work that MIMA does. Yeah. So I have underlined here about 9 areas that we have at least done the last 2 years or so. Preparation of a national state of the ocean and coast report for Malaysia, which we focus on, marine economic contribution and environmental sustainability issues that we try to address through this report that we worked on, not just at the national level, but we work very closely with the different regional countries as well to try to establish a uniform national state reporting system, looking into the contribution from the marine side and the sustainability development areas. The second project, if you look at, is the establishment of a particularly sensitive sea area. I hope it's not too technical for you because I'm using some abbreviations here. MAPOL is the Marine Pollution Convention under the International Maritime Organization. It looks into pollution matters, and we're looking at establishing a protected area in the Straits of Malacca that looks into addressing pollution from shipping activities. It's quite a big project and it's still very much in the progress status, I would say. There's still a lot of work to do with regards to this particularly sensitive sea area, but we're trying our best to try to move towards that aspects. And then I mentioned to you earlier, ABNJ is one area that we are also trying to follow in terms of international development and what Malaysia government should try to do. So marine biodiversity is high on our radar. We have also worked on fisheries policy, If you have further question, maybe my colleague later can try to explain a little bit. Ashikin has been anchoring this study, and we're looking at some of the issues, challenges, and way forward. But still, I would say that MIMA study doesn't stand as 1 year and then it's completed and that's it. We try to follow on to the issues because you see, environmental issues is not a one-off issue; it's usually interrelated from one to another. So we're still very much looking into these different aspects that I'm mentioning to you today. And then we're trying to look also into marine spatial planning. I mentioned to you earlier coastal zone management and the need to try to look at integrated approach when we talk about coastal management. So we're looking at tools available. And one of the projects that we tried to collaborate with University Malaysia Terengganu was to try to establish a marine spatial planning in the coast of Terengganu. So we did some preliminary work, and this work was actually presented to the Terengganu state government. But again, like I mentioned, it's not a one-off project. We're still very much trying to focus on further enhancing marine spatial planning as a tool for coastal management. At the same time, I think a lot of work is being done on mangroves at the moment. There's a lot of tension, a lot of threats, a lot of requirement to make sure that we sustainably manage our mangroves because Malaysia is one of the top in terms of the uh, distribution or population of mangroves that we have in the country. And as I think I'm pretty confident most of you know the importance of mangroves. So hence this is often high on our radar, at least the last few years. We're looking also, like I mentioned in topic number 4, topic number 7 looks at very specific subject area into the fisheries management topic itself in Malaysia. We're looking at trying to look to ban certain fishing gears that might be harmful to the ecosystems. So one of the areas that we're trying to look into is the banning of trawl, but as you may know, it's not fully banned yet. So there's still discussions and research needs in this particular subject matter. And then on fishery subsidy, I think if you try to look at some of the recent discussions under SDG 14, specifically on subsidies, there's a lot of issues where they say that this might also contribute to over harvesting or damage to the resources. So you can look at some of the challenges that we, why we're looking at this subject matter. And if you have further question, you can ask me later. And one of the areas I think this is a very interesting area, number 9. We try to address marine pollution, specifically garbage, or I usually call it marine litter. There was issues that we noticed in the country where we didn't have sufficient data to promote policies and management efforts specifically on marine litter side. So MIMA has established a tool to try to quantitatively measure how much of litter is being collected in our coastal areas to try to provide evidence-based policy making. So what we do is in addition to collecting the data, we try to also spread awareness in terms of this specific topic area. So these are some examples. I can go on and on, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of the research areas that we work on, and maybe students, especially if you later on would like to work on a specific research topic that might be relevant to what we're doing in your thesis or so on. I think you can you are free to approach us and get further information on the areas of interest that you have. And just to highlight a little bit in terms of, I have already mentioned this, but this is how we try to frame our projects. We do a lot of stakeholder consultations. We call in relevant people, we call in experts, so you can see that our stakeholders will be very relevant to the topic that we research on. And this can be in terms of specific events, forums that actually support our research activities. Yeah, just to give you an example. And then while the earlier example was something that's more on paper, we on this example is more in terms of also going down to the ground engaging people, collecting data in specific area where there's not enough information to try to still address policy needs and management requirements. So this is the marine litter program that I have mentioned. And in addition to that, you will also be able to see here some examples of the publications that MIMA produce every now and then. If you see, the MIMA bulletin is something that we come up at least twice to four times a year. And then the other publication, it can be issue papers, conference proceeding, even book publication, and so on. So if you need information, you can always approach MIMA when it comes to specific maritime areas with regards to policy matters. So there's a lot of information, and just for your information also, that we actually have a library at our office. I think Dr. Juliana will be able to share with you later because she has visited that. So if you need to work on specific topic or so on, you can you are welcome to visit us at your convenience. So just to conclude my presentation, I think I'm nearing to 11 o'clock. This is a very short, just a brief snapshot. I hope to give you a picture on what MIMA looks into. I think we are pretty unique that no one else pretty much in Malaysia has a specific policy angle as what we do. So I think that's pretty exclusive in that sense. But we have actually played a role in the development of national and international policies over the last many years, since 1993. We also look into specifically environment. We looked at analyzing environmental issues, management issues, navigation issues, and so on. We try to stay at par. We try to be updated. We try to be in line with international development, regional development, and so on, so that Malaysia policies and so on is also well updated and so on. We hope to continue with this work and provide inputs to the relevant stakeholders, especially the government agencies, when it comes to our forte or our specific area of work. So I hope that gives you a brief idea on MIMA in today's platform. And after this, if someone mentioned to you about MIMA, you'll be able to actually say that, oh, I know what they do, and I know how they do it, and so on. So thank you so much, Dr. Chu. I hope that gives a brief snapshot on MIMA's role and functions in policy making. In the past experiences, what we've been doing is also try to bring in my colleague to try to share with you UNCLOS matters. But unfortunately, this time, because my colleague is not around, we couldn't do that. But we hope maybe in your next visit, and I hope it will be a face-to-face engagement, we'll try to provide that again. But at this particular platform, I think we can try to focus on the environmental issues and so on. So thank you, Dr. Ju, for this opportunity, and I pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cheryl, for your kind, outstanding presentation regarding the informations about the functions and role of MIMA in providing informations and dealing with the multiple stakeholders when during the policy making process. It's true that we need policy and science in lines so that the science can provide informations to the policymakers, and then we can try to collaborate and know about the current issue related to these kinds of, for example, environmental management, about the security at the States of Malacca. So without the scientists, the policymaker is quite not able to reach the objective they are trying to achieve. Okay, we now at the Q&A sessions, question and answer. I would like to invite the audience in this platform to ask questions to Ms. Cheryl or to Ms. Ashikins. If there any actually about the if there any issues that you want to ask about the ocean law and policy, you might ask directly, or you can you can write your questions through the chat platform provided in this platform. Okay. Is there any questions?
Yeah, feel free to also type your question if you want. We can try to pick it up from the text as well if you
Mhm.
yeah you're okay with it. Dr. Chu,
Um,
if I may just ask, these students in this to this platform, are they final year students or first year students?
It's the first year students. Mostly the audience from our platform is from ocean law and policy students courses, and then there's the others from audience that staff from kuliah outside and also from others kuliah also joins this session. It's not only students. There are also respective lecturers joining us today. That's why if others audience would like to ask about the any question related to ocean law and policy, you may ask to the panels. But I just want curious about one thing regarding the CCI technique. What if our marine school like to collaborate with MIMA, since we have a marine school that we like to the functions of marine school is to educate mostly the students and also the public about the awareness to the marine environment. Is there any possibility that we can collaborate with MIMA and teach the public about this technique?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ju, for the question. I think it's a very interesting question and something that we often look forward to engaging with other interested parties. Just to give a bit more details on CCI, or what we call as the Clean Coast Index, is something that we have established based on international practices and other practices available, where we try to establish a quantitative method to measure litter in the coastal areas, and with the hope to develop our database that will later support management approach and policy, hopefully as an overall aim. And so far we have been engaging mainly NGOs, Malaysian Nature Society and so on, where they come in as volunteers to help us collect the data. But more recently, we are also working with like interested corporate parties. We have last year tried to engage similarly with the Malaysian MISC, International Shipping Corporation. In terms of universities, I'm really happy that you raised this point because we have not really done it with universities. And if there's such interest, we will be happy to train people how to do it and explain further why we are doing it and so on. So we have actually done, and Ashikin is actually one of the person that's really anchoring this at MIMA, where we have been training people how to do it, the importance of it, and further contributing to the database. So this is something that if IIUM is interested, maybe we can try to find a possible avenue, opportunity that we try to engage your students and try to pass down in terms of capacity building and so on. And indirectly, the involvement from the university will be contributing also to not just data compilation, like I mentioned, but also management approaches. So what we do is, I look forward to September this year because it's usually the international beach cleanup celebration. But unfortunately, this year we have this COVID situation. I hope things gets better by September. But if you keep in touch with us, normally in September we do a lot of related activities on CCI. So that could be one possible cooperation if we try to come down towards maybe Kuantan side or something. We can approach your students and so on to try to take part with us. So I hope we let's keep this an open suggestion, and if things improves on COVID, we hope to do a bit more on coastal CCI. Yes.
Yeah, true. If you get better with the pandemic COVID-19, then we can try to collaborate with MIMA about this technique and also collaborate with the east parts of Malaysia regarding the beach cleanup day. Then we can have other event with the MIMA about this thing. And I open for questions from the audience. Is there any questions? Okay, there's one question from our students. There are research paper or publications that related ocean law and policy for our country in MIMA website, but I can't see and go through the research paper or publication because we need pay for it. Is it MIMA can open it for public view? Can you
Okay.
answer that?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Ju. Interesting point. Actually, there's two points that I would like to raise with regards to this question. Thank you, Camila, for the question, by the way. One is some of these publications, we try not to put it as an open source in the website where you can just download, because sometimes the information is not suitable for international sharing because it's very policy oriented. So what we do is we are a bit more we practice a bit more safety security on that aspects. But having said that, uh, these publications are also available in our resource center, and you've seen our library, and you can access it for free actually if you come to our library. Unfortunately, you have to travel to Kuala Lumpur to come to our office, and you don't have to pay. You can just reference it from our library free of charge. Um, but on the other side, normally we sell it at a very minimal cost. You'll see that our publications are usually not expensive because it's a non-profit. MIMA is a non-profit based organization, so we don't make money from our publication. It's just a minimum cost that we gather back from the printing and so on. So usually it's not expensive, but we try. The reason why we don't put everything up on the website is because we are a bit more cautious with the content that we put up there. But nevertheless, we let people know that we have this. If you want, it's for free. If you just come to our office, it's free. You can reference it. If you want to buy it, then we know who exactly is buying it from us, and it's usually not expensive. So, Camila, I hope I have addressed your question. Yeah. So, if there is an opportunity,
Yeah,
you want
thank
to
you.
look, yeah. So maybe Camila, if you happen to
Yeah, the
come
other.
to KL, then maybe you can have a look at some of these reports.
Yeah, true. For your informations, the MIMA Resource Center is very complete with law, about the resources related to law, policy, and also marine conservations and other documents. For example, the maps, Malaysian map, the Peta Baru, and then the chartered map that used by the Navy also have uh, dekat apa at the MIMA Resource Center. If you like a student want to do the research on the documentations and for their thesis or for any project, they can ask from official letter from the university and then send to MIMA for their consent, and then they can visit the resource center and then use all the materials provided at the resource center. True, Sharon?
True. Yes, correct, Dr. Chu. Exactly.
Okay, there's another questions from Sophia Hassan Azhari. Okay, Assalamualaikum. I'm Sophia, a student from Marine Science, IUM. I want to ask what does it means with green shipping and port operations, and how does it work? Can you answer this question, Sharon?
Yes,
Or
thank you,
Ashik?
Dr. Chu. Maybe I'll try to take it up first, and then Shikin, if there's anything you want to add. Um, Okay, this is an interesting question. Thank you, Sophia, for the question. Now, you'll see there's a buzzword that we usually use at the moment for shipping. We usually say green shipping and port operation. What it means by that? It means environmentally friendly practices. So when we look at shipping, a traditional shipping or port operation, it was very much, if I may use this term, economic oriented. It's just about trade. As long as the cargo arrive, you just send it from one port to another port. As long as you're doing that, everything is fine. That is a traditional shipping and port operation activities. Yes, Sophia? But when we add the word green here, it means that trying to be more environment friendly. So you have to make sure that the shipping activity and the port operation does not pollute the environment. There is no, if I can give you specific example, oil pollution should not be there while you are doing your trade from one port to another port. You also, look at things like emission from the ships, right? That is also a type of pollution. So there's requirement that you are more environment friendly. It comes to, garbage or waste management on the ship itself. That is also practices now that you have to follow in terms of the international requirements. So these are green practices. When you do something, you try to, if I give you another example is, contohnya kalau di rumah we have like kita semula dan sebagainya, same thing with shipping and so on, we try to be environment friendly in terms of energy use, pollution, addressing pollution, the operation itself should be environment friendly, or we try to limit the uh, any threat that there is on the environment side. So that's what it means by green in this concept. Yeah, Sophia, I hope that addresses your question.
Okay, thank you, Syaril. Regarding about the shipping activity at the Strait of Malacca, for example, is a busy route for business trading from the America to from the east and to the west part of the global area. But I have one question about the PSSA. I know about this thing during our last visit, the particular sensitive sea areas at Pulau
Mm.
Pungkop. This is the sensitive area that they are trying to conserve due to shipping activity. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. This is that this PSAA already established for the conservation from the shipping activity?
Okay, at the moment, this is very much still in the pipeline because I think, like I mentioned to the last batch of students, it goes through different range of requirements at national. Actually, I will start with the state level, then national level, then international level, as I have explained maybe in the last presentation. But at the moment, we're still very much in process because it takes time. I think this will go on for several more years because we have to get consensus from the other neighboring countries, from the state government, from the different ministries involved. So sometimes this PSSA is one good example where policy matters, I think, takes really long time on certain areas. Still very much in process,
True.
but as we speak about PSSA already, like you mentioned, Dr. Ju, uh, Pulau Kukup and Tanjung Piai at the moment is already protected in the sense that they are Ramsar sites, but
Yeah, true.
yes, what we're trying to do is to add protection to it on the coastal, on the sea side of things. So we're trying. We're still very much in process, but I think it will take a bit more time.
Yeah, it's very quite difficult to engage with the state government, and also you have to engage with the neighboring states
Yes.
regarding this matter since we cannot control the traffic from the shipping
Yeah.
activity, right?
Yes.
So it's quite a long time to do the processing, to do the policy making process. Okay. Is there any question before I close the sessions from the audience? You can unmute your audio, then you can ask question directly, or you can ask question through the chat box in this platform. I think okay, Siti Balkis. Siti Balkis. I think the student quite shy to ask questions to the panel. You can use the bahasa medium if you have problem with the if with your confidence, if you have problem to ask questions.
If some of you are shy, contohnya kalau students rasa malu nak tanya soalan hari ni, jangan juga don't think that there's no other opportunity. You will find our email addresses and contact points ada di website MIMA, dan bila-bila kalau ada soalan after today's platform, I think please feel free to email. Ashikin email is also there. My email is there. Some of our colleagues' emails are also there. So mungkin sebab mostly first year students, so for you some of the areas I mentioned maybe agak baru lah kan. So if you look at our MIMA website dan you rasa you berminat untuk lebih mengetahui berkenaan dengan subject matter tertentu, you can email us. And if you can maybe perhaps start thinking also about your final year project, and if you think something is related to what MIMA does, also please have us in mind. And Dr. Chu, if there is industrial training student that you maybe might want to send to us also, I think that is one opportunity juga lah. So yeah.
Okay. Since we also have a coordinator for the final year project in our department, Dr. Asno Azrin is dealing with the industry to engage student and industry to place the student at the industry for the final for the industrial training. So MIMA is one of the industry that can placed or can be chosen by the student if they want to know more about the conservations or about the ocean and policy. If they really want to know more about the how the establishment of the marine policy and law in our country, they can know more with they can learn more with about this thing with the panel, for example, and also other panel colleagues from the Maritime Institute of Malaysia. Okay, without so if there's no other questions from the audience, I would like to uh, sum up our sessions today. So we know that from the presentations from Ms. Cheryl, we know that MIMA is functions, MIMA rules in protecting and conserving our marine environment, especially for the benefit of the future by protecting, by legalize or by providing legislations and regulations to the national level, and also presenting Malaysia at the national and international level through the conventions, conference. And you see that when it comes to the policy making, it's quite impossible. But MIMA did it. They engaged with multiple stakeholders, dealing with state, with the federal, with the neighboring country about how to in terms to protect our environments, in terms not only for the environmental of not only for the marine environment but also for the security part for the Strait of Malacca, since Strait of Malacca have different subjects, and also we have the MIMA also concerns about our the maritime economics and also law, and also not for not and also for law and policy. So I'm thanking MIMA, Maritime Institute of Malaysia, and also Ms. Cheryl, Ms. Ashikin, because providing us about the information related to this topic, and especially on the ocean law and policy, since as a scientist and a student, they know more on the conservation part. They know about the management, but they have least informations about the policy, and also about the regulation, legislations, and what types of management done by Malaysia. And then I'm very glad that Ms. Cheryl can spend time spend time to share the information with us. Thank you, Ms. Cheryl and Ms. Ashikins. And if there I would like to close this session. Is there anything what you want to convey to finalize about the session?
Thank you, Dr. Chu. Thank you again to Dr. Chu and all the students for this opportunity today. I would say that we have, because of the limited time we have, we only scratch the surface on some of the things that we did. It's just the beginning, especially that most of you are first year students. I hope that there will be further opportunities where we can go into further depths. And as I mentioned, Dr. Chu is in very close contact with us. So feel free, Dr. Chu. We hope to continue this engagement in the time to come. Thank you so much.
I really hopefully we can have another engagement with MIMA, hopefully directly, face to face. It's quite by using this platform is quite we can by using if you can go visit MIMA again next year maybe, then we can go to the resource center, then we can explore give the student to explore the resource center by itself, because I know online advanced technology is good to dekatkan yang jauh and then share the informations. But unfortunately, I think face-to-face is better. Then we can know more about MIMA next time. Thank you so much. Okay, I would like to close the sessions. Since 11, we have time. But since there is no other question from the audience, so we ended it here. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Ashikin, for your time. Okay, bye. Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera.